And he was like, how am I going to let my 16-year-old daughter leave, right? At the time, 14 probably. Like, no.
If you get a yes from these schools, you've made it, right? You are putting yourself... And you're going. Yeah, it's like without a question, you're going.
A lot of getting into these amazing schools, getting scholarships, being able to navigate the process also requires luck. Hello everyone, my name is Maria Fernanda Martinez-Donaus and I am the Executive Director of RioProgress.
Hi, and my name is Phil Donaus. I am the Operations Director of RioProgress.
And we're here today to start this podcast for the first time. We're really excited to get going. We both are avid podcast listeners and love listening to content and are really excited about the opportunity to be able to have one of our own where we share some of our experiences and our knowledge. But I think we have to start with what is RioProgress.
Yeah.
And how did it start so that you have a little bit of context as to what we do and what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that RioProgress started because of a conversation that I had with you. And initially, around the time that RioProgress started as an idea, not as an organization, but as an idea, we were fresh off the pandemic. We had just moved to Brownsville. You're initially from Brownsville. I was brand new here. But I was, as an outsider, looking for community, and I joined an astronomy org. And because I got to participate as a member of that astronomy org, I got to meet a lot of really, really intelligent students who were interested in the opportunity that they thought that they had here in Brownsville. Aerospace technology companies are here. There's a lot of attention and investment in the community. There's a revitalization of the community. And especially after COVID, a lot of people maybe were pessimistic about what their outlooks were. But these students who I had met, they had ambitious engineering projects. So as a part of being a judge at one of the science fairs, I met the first two students that we ended up meeting. And they were at James Pace Early College High School. They were interested in learning more about space science, and they had the curiosity and the drive.
And you were judging them, but then you turned into their coach, essentially.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. Basically, what ended up happening was they had a really good, compelling project, but I knew that I could at least get them in contact with people who'd be able to help give them some research. And the astronomy organization I'm with had really good access to scientific instruments from the university. So I was like, at the very least, right, if they're going to be competitive in science fair, of course I can't judge their science fair project anymore because I've already picked a side.
The objectivity is gone.
Exactly. But it meant that I got an experience of what it felt like to connect really, really curious and driven students to gaining access to more resources. And they were like, that's great, Phil. That's awesome. You helped me with the science fair project. You helped me with TSA. Do you know anyone who can help me with college? And I was like, oh, no. I mean, I did know someone, but I'm like, it's not going to be me. And immediately that's when I think the first idea that something needed to be done happened. Like, I think as a part of what I was looking to accomplish in the community that I was sort of getting to know was trying to understand how I feel like I could fit in. And I really wanted to be able to be someone who could help people along. And I remember when I was speaking to these students, they were like, well, how do I be an aerospace engineer, Phil? And I'm like, well, you go to a really good school and you go to college, and preferably you do it without taking on any student debt. And they're like, how do I do that? And I'm like, don't look at me. I didn't do that. For me, I grew up in a place where everyone went to college. Like that was.
And you're from New Jersey.
Yeah, and from Franklin 732, New Jersey. But basically, the idea was everyone was working towards. It's almost like a grind mentality, but it wasn't necessarily a grinding, but it was a confidence that we knew who we were. we knew how smart we were, and we knew that the next step you take is to go on and to pursue things further. And that's just what everyone in our community knew. I think the vast majority of my high school class went to college. I look at my fellow classmates, and they are doctors, they are lawyers, right? They're doing amazing, extensive research, like truly amazing people. And for me, you know, I was a good student, but I wasn't a great student. And when I went to college, I realized that even though that I had all this access, there were still so many different mistakes I could have made, right? Like, I picked a school that I absolutely loved to attend, but it didn't have the support system that I needed specifically for me. I didn't realize that, you know, going to a school didn't just mean, oh, like, you know, you go to school and if you're a good student, you go for free. No, there's a lot more to that in that financial aid letter, right? There's an application that has to go through that. There's considerations. There's other options. There's other competing offers, right? There's a difference between taking out a loan for a school that is of a certain caliber versus another one. What's worth it? And honestly, the person I had or the people I had at the time were going through this for the first time in the modern era, right? Like, they went to school in the 80s and the 90s.
Lots has changed.
Yeah, lots has changed since then. And college was more competitive. It was way more expensive. And so, you know, when I worked with these students and they started to bring their friends along because, you know, they also wanted to be engineers or they wanted to go ahead and do good for their community, it was, I am not your person. But we were engaged at the time. I'm like, but I'm marrying someone I know who for a fact should be able to help you. And we had just helped someone go through that process before. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I'm from here, and I'm very proudly from here. But I had opportunities that allowed me to get out of the Brownsville area and see what was possible in terms of education. So when I was in 7th grade, I got to apply for Jack Kent Cooke Young Scholars Program, which is, now that I look at it, a great stroke of luck in so many different ways. You get this letter in the mail that's like, hey, apply to this thing. And amidst all the scams, because, you know, there's like so many, we'll talk about it at another point, so many financial aid scams out there. And I got to talk to my counselor at the time, Ms. Rosalinda Cruz, who truly, I think if you pinpoint people who change your lives, right, that's one of those people for me. I was like, hey, is this real? Should I do it? She's like, it has a website. And at the time that meant you were legit because not everyone had websites. You couldn't just like put one up randomly.
Oh, the odds were crazy.
And I'm dating myself a little bit here, but that's fine. And so we filled out a handwritten application. I had to print it out like 3 times because I kept making mistakes. And then we sent it and we forget about it because it was going to take like a year to hear back. So in 8th grade, I get a call from my mom while I was at school that a letter had arrived with Jack and Cooke on it and that she was going to bring it to me at the school. And it was at dismissal time, but we couldn't wait. And so I get it and I sit in the car and I'm like, okay, let's go home. She's like, what? You're not going to open it? Like, I brought it all the way here for you to not open it now? That's crazy. So I open it, and I literally run out of the car in the parking lot. And I remember it was raining to try to find Miss Cruz so I could tell her that I'd gotten it. Wow. And that scholarship allowed me to go to summer programs. Most importantly, though, it gave me access to an educational advisor who was working with a small number of students every year. And her number one goal was to help us figure out how to get to whatever our next step was. Some of that included summer camp. Some of it included extracurricular support. I remember they subscribed me to whatever educational magazines I wanted, which was so exciting. And eventually it led to free college, free undergrad, and free master's, and now a free doctorate program because it stayed with me that whole time. It allowed me to go to boarding school, so I willingly went to boarding school. My theater director at the time was like, your parents must hate you that they're sending you away. I was like, no, I chose this. This is for me.
And not just any boarding school did you go to? Yeah.
I went to Phillips Exeter Academy, which is in Exeter, New Hampshire, very far away. But I knew that I had to do it because I had gone to summer programs and seen the access other kids had to things. They were talking about engineer programs. They were talking about science fairs. They were talking about all these amazing things that we just didn't have access to in Brownsville yet. And I wanted that. I was really, really excited to be in a space where I could learn more. So I went to Exeter, and I had probably the best time anyone has ever had at such a difficult school. But it was because I was so grateful, right? I was so grateful for the opportunity. I was so grateful for what I was able to experience and learn there. But I hit a point where I also was really sad for my community, because why did I have to leave so far away to get this quality of education when I thought everyone deserved access to that? And I remember thinking, there are people back home who would thrive here as well, and they're not getting that same access. And so RioProgress really started back then, and I didn't know it. It started when I was 16 and left for Exeter, and started to see the disparity in education quality and all of the things that other kids have access to that we didn't yet hear. But it was just a seed at the time, right? And it grew a little bit more. I went to college at Columbia University, and I studied education. And basically everything that I was feeling, I was able to put words to through that program. And I was able to learn about the education system and college and how everything works. And I just felt like that shouldn't be gatekept, right? And we needed to spread the word and to share that information with others. So I came back to Brownsville in 2018 as a teacher, as a high school teacher. And I love teaching. I love being in the classroom. But I felt like we needed to do more to help more people, because realistically, I could only be there for 100 students at a time every school year. And I wasn't their counselor. I was their teacher for one class. And so when you brought up the opportunity to work with these students, I think it was really exciting for us to be able to extend the work beyond the classroom. And we had just worked with Aaron, my cousin, you know, the way that Mexicans have cousins, the neighbor you grew up with, all that stuff. And you actually had the opportunity to be really involved in his process as well. So what did you learn through that first year and a half of us working, not just with Aaron, but also with our students, about this process and about what it takes?
So much. Like, I think that the thing that I learned first, there's a few things I learned. The first thing that I think that was really impactful was with the right mentorship. Like, Aaron didn't have to know anymore. He didn't have to. He already he is who he is. But with the right mentorship and guidance and understanding of a system, you could just navigate it so much better. I think the way that we went about helping him plan how to approach college applications, like I remember in high school, I started my college applications in November, and that was already apparently too late.
So much.
Like, it was already too late. I should have, and you know, we started in August. Like, we were already applying for some national scholarships. There were scholarships that I could have accessed had I just known about, right?
Yeah, and that's a common theme with our students. We've met a few who are day before the deadline, you know, applying to things.
Yeah, and like if I was able to realize like what my true chances were, right? Whether it was because I met a need-based income requirement, or right, I applied for my FAFSA on time. Like, I didn't even know that FAFSA was first come first serve, and we were doing FAFSA, and you were like, it's almost October, and I'm like, what's in October? And you're like, FAFSA, and I'm like, what? Doesn't he have until like March? And then you're like, no, it's first come first serve, duh. And I'm like, there's no way.
Okay, I did not say duh.
No,
I would have never.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I know that this knowledge is not common and out there.
No, but I feel like I should have known. Like, I feel like, you know, I'm coming from a school district that had, like, I think it's really interesting when you talk about that opportunity you had. I had doctors who were teaching, like people who had their doctorates in physics, in chemistry.
Yeah.
I had experts in industry. I had, you know, like the people who were at my high school, everyone had their masters basically, or had practiced their craft in such a way that like you could tell that we had no clue who was teaching us, right? But ultimately we, like, for the smart kids, we knew we had to listen to them, and we weren't going to be like, and it was going to be a good thing for us, right? And that type of confidence to know that that was what each and every single one of our, my classmates had access to me, it's crazy, right, to have that in a public school. But then when I realized I was working with that first cohort of students, they didn't even have a college advisor at the time, right? They, like, the community wasn't aware of some of the basic things that you and I knew at that time when we were working with Aaron. I think there was like a conversation about like Aaron's family circumstances and how certain applications ask for what seems to be like the weirdest things. Like, I didn't know the CSS profile would care if my family had a farm, and if I had a farm, how many cows I had, and what were the average value of those cows. And I'm like, what does any of this have to do with college? What does any have? But I learned so much from that first group of students that we worked with, and that type of knowledge needs to make its way to other people, right? Yeah. And I think that's a big component of why, like, we wanted to do a cohort model, because I think one of the hardest things that also was a part of this process was, let's say we have a really, really amazing kid who is capable of doing great things, who is able to go to one of the most elite institutions in the country, but, their parents are also asking, like, why? Can you talk about some of the challenges that we had when it came to not just working with the students about this stuff, but working with the parents and even with your own experience, right? Yeah. And talking to them about that.
So we started working with students officially, I think, with the class of 2023. And they were a group of 6 students, and we started by meeting on Sundays at Starbucks, because that's the day that worked for them. They're busy, they have extracurriculars, they have all these things going on. And it basically became a space where we're just going to work on your applications for 2 hours every week. So you don't have to stress out about doing anything during the rest of the week if you don't have time. And this is the time when you can ask questions, when you can have me read your essays, where you can have Phil look at your resume, right? And more importantly, and you talked a little bit about the cohort model, the research that I had done when I was in undergrad said that they needed to do this in a group, right? They couldn't feel like they were the only ones, because feeling like you're the only one doing something is so isolating in a community like ours, right? Like Brownsville, where we're used to doing everything in a big group with family, with all these other people. So we had to meet together as a group. We didn't do one-on-ones. We didn't do just, one student at a time, because it wasn't going to work. And ultimately what helped was that they had each other to also cheer each other on, support each other, ask questions. We had our group chat where people could drop in a question, and if even you or I couldn't get to it on time, someone else could. Yeah. So we picked the cohort model, but we also had a lot of investment from that first group in terms of what RioProgress was going to become. We had them help us pick our mascot's name, but more important things too, like who are we going to serve, right? Sure. Who is this program for? And I think that's really important when you talk about the parents and when you talk about the community. One of the things that I was really aware of is there's some parents in the community who already know to look for resources, which is the first step, right? You have to know what you don't know. There's, the principals and the doctors and the lawyers and all of their kids at least have a sense of where they're going. But what happened to the students whose parents were agricultural workers or were like my parents, my mom at a paper bag factory, my dad's a custodian, they sometimes don't even know what they don't know, right? So when I applied for the Jack and Cook Foundation, it was Mrs. Cruz, my counselor, who had to sit down with my dad and be like, you need to there was a question on the application. Are you willing to let your student travel? And it was a yes, no, sometimes type of question. And Mrs. Cruz sat down with him and was like, you have to put yes. even if you're not sure yet or how far or where, you need to put yes, because if you put maybe, they might not consider her. They want someone who's going to take full advantage of every opportunity that they give her. Now you know my dad.
Oh yeah.
My brother and I are his everything. And he was like, how am I going to let my 16-year-old daughter leave, right? At the time, 14 probably. Like, no. And so I had experience with what it was like to have parents who believed in you and had all of the best dreams and wishes for you, but maybe didn't know exactly what it took to get there, and how early you had to start and how much it required of you. And when we had our first cohort, we had a lot of those students. We had a lot of students whose parents either had not been to college, in the States, or like you said about the people who were advising you, right, had done it 20, 30 years ago when it was a very different landscape and things were vastly different. So we had a student who, for example, got a really amazing scholarship, was able to go halfway across the country to a very elite institution to study her dream career. Yeah. And mom didn't want to let her go. And I remember you looked at me and you were like, I don't understand. And I think this is where a little bit of your culture shock, right? And a little bit of you understanding the community was coming in. Yeah. Because people back at your hometown would be jumping for joy.
Oh, yeah. Like, I grew up 30 minutes away from Princeton University, like one of the top research institutions in the world. And it was one of those things where I think from my graduating class, 2 of our top 10 attended that school. And then even potentially quite a few consistently make it to Ivy Plus or Ivy League or Ivy Plus schools. So it would be a no-brainer. It was like, yeah, you're going to go to that school. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the one kid was was our valedictorian, studied computer science, and the other kid got to do a cool program where she got to go spend time in Brazil. And like every parent was like, yeah, no, you're doing it. Like why would you waste the opportunity? For me, it was like my community, you know, even though I felt like I was missing some important components of the college process and stuff, my community still understood what that meant, right? What it meant to make, like, if you get a yes from these schools, you've made it, right? You are putting
and you're going.
And you're going. Yeah, it's like without a question, you're going. And so for me, it was so strange to hear a top tier university with a full ride, like not even just like, oh, you know, like we still have to pay for flights and food. No, it is a full ride, flights, food, everything. And for someone to question whether or not it's worth their time, I was like, there's got to be something happening here that I don't understand, that we're going to have to include as a part of our mission for RioProgress. Because like, if it meant that we could work with students and work with them so well, but the parents still didn't understand why they were investing that time, why were they investing that resource, why were they letting their kid go, right? Then it would then the pressure would be for them to stay home and miss out on that opportunity. And through your current research, you've learned about like what that effect was, and you've experienced what that effect was when you were in college, weren't you? Didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, not college, because I got to leave a little earlier. But one of the things that I'm now aware of, that even when I was working with that student, I wasn't, right? I thought this is just a Brownsville thing. We, especially for our girls, right, we want them to stay home. I won't say we, because I don't necessarily fall into that group, but I think parents are really afraid of letting their girls go. And my experience was that when I first left for boarding school, the whole first 2 months, every single day, my dad called me and said, you can come home anytime, right? Like, regresate. If it's too hard, come back. And that's the worst thing you can hear when you're already thinking about that every single day and fighting against that every single day. But I thought that was a me experience, right? Just me, my dad, the way that our dynamic worked. Working with a student, I realized it wasn't just us, but I thought maybe it's just our community thing. And then recently I came across an article where I was telling you, this is common for all Latinas, right? This is how our communities work, where a lot of us either don't leave too far from home because we want to stay close by. We feel like we have to stay close by. And when we do leave and your parents are constantly telling you, you know, you can always come back, it's actually detrimental because if you're already doubting yourself, if you're already struggling, hearing that weakens you, right? And there's data for this now, where it's one of the hardest things to do. So after reading that and after seeing that, and talking to my dad a lot, we decided to do parent workshops to talk to parents about what they could expect when their students went to college, and how they could prepare them and help them. But also, we invited my dad to a couple of those so he could talk about whether or not it was even worth it. Like, I remember the question on the slide, because my dad doesn't speak English, was vale la pena, right? And it was with a question mark because a lot of people aren't fully convinced that this is what's right for their students yet. And I think that's also part of why we're starting this podcast, right? We have done a lot of work in our community at this point. We work with students. We're on our 4th cohort now. It's very exciting. We do these parent workshops, but there's only 2 of us so far. And we have a lot more that we want to share about this entire process. You talked a little bit about your experience and how hard it was to navigate when you had people who knew what they were doing, but maybe their knowledge wasn't updated, right? And I think one of the things that we've talked about and that we've talked to our students a lot about is it doesn't even matter if you have perfect circumstances, right? A lot of getting into these amazing schools, getting scholarships, being able to navigate the process also requires luck. And so I know, you know, we've had different experiences with that. But at the end of the day, we come back to, yes, it's luck. It's also preparation. And you can make sure that you're as prepared as possible. But at the end of the day, you need someone to help push your luck a little bit in the right direction. Because otherwise you're going to be at the mercy of just whatever fate decides to do. I think there's also some stuff to be said about, is college worth it? Right? And I know you've looked at data for that.
The interesting thing about talking about both parts, right, is that it sounds like it sounds like you're gambling a bit. My background is, what I went to school for was engineering physics, but I transferred, changed majors to be for it to be quantitative finance. And there's a core component of learning about that is it worth it? Like, literally, is it worth it? Is it worth for us to spend this money today to get a certain outcome tomorrow, right? And I've sort of taken a lot of that back and realized that there are some communities out there where, it's absolutely worth it. And the evidence is clear, right? It was in my community, it was like, why do you go to college? Well, if you want to stay here and own a house in Franklin, you should be working for one of our largest consulting firms out of here, SHI, or one of these other different firms in the area, or one of these tech hubs. If you want to live here and work in New York, well, there's all of Wall Street. You got to go ahead and get a college degree. No one's going to take you without a degree, right? It's very clear there. For Brownsville, though, I realized for a long time it hasn't been clear that it's actually worth it here, too, because there's both the misunderstanding of, 1, is it worth it? And 2, how much is it worth it? And how much can I do and have a say in mitigating that cost? And I think that was the thing that I was really, really excited to do when we worked with Add-On, because it was so cool for me to see it from this other perspective that I hadn't seen. Add-On circumstances meant that he was definitely a student with high need, but with high intelligence. And to Princeton, he was worth it to them, right? And it was so cool because not only was it that, you know, we were able to help him through that process, but we were also able to help him through the decision making. And I got to go back to this place, go to Princeton with him, like 30 minutes from my hometown, realizing that, you know, I didn't end up there, but with proper preparation, education, and guidance, other people can. It's not some myth of being able to find a college or to put yourself in a college circumstance that's worth it. So we definitely with RP want to be able to make sure that people feel like it's worth it, but it's also worth it in a way in which where they are able to properly balance that fear and that anxiety of the unknown, which is really just luck. Like I think of some of the students that that we've worked with over time and that we continue to work with. The idea that they are 100% going to MIT or 100% going to Harvard.
Well, there's no 100%.
There's no 100%. And in reality, it's more like for those kids, like it's like I say it's a 1 in 20 sometimes.
Well, the actual percentage for those schools is a 3% acceptance rate.
Oh, there you go.
So it's a 3 in a 100 chance.
Yeah.
But the point is that you have to apply for it to even be a 3 in 100 chance.
Exactly. Right? And even if, and for us, even if you're a really smart kid, maybe it's still a 1 in 20, but still that's, you have better odds flipping a coin. You have better odds rolling dice.
But it's still worth it.
It's still worth it. And I think that to be able to go through the process and still be able to get the most, I don't think that is something that our community understands and believes. Yet. I mean, yes, right? But I learned through your experience as you were telling Aaron about this, like your application process at Exeter was dramatically different and convoluted in a way, but it was because but at that level you're talking with a lot more certainty. What was that like for the audience, and like what were the things that you learned through that process that were truly interesting?
So the process there, for some context, most of the Brownsville high schools, the class size ranges from 300 at the smaller schools to almost 1,000 at some of the bigger schools, and often you have maybe 2 or 3 counselors per grade level at most, right? So that's still a ratio of like 1 to 100. Whereas at the high school I got to attend, our counselor had 20 students, and we had to meet with her every single week for at least an hour throughout the entire process to be walked through it. She had a list already when I arrived of what school she thought I should apply to, some I hadn't even heard of at the time. And there was a lot of confidence. That I think is probably one of the hardest things with our students, right? To convince them that they're good and qualified and deserve this opportunity. And I didn't have that because my counselor from the start was like, yes, this is your list. You will get into one of them. The question is going to be, how much money do they give you? And I remember sitting in that office and being like, I don't know what you mean, but I will believe you because you seem to know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so she read my essays. She walked me through the entire process. And I remember her telling me, you have a really powerful story and you're going to stand out for X, Y, and Z reasons. And so you just need to make sure you highlight that. I had got the opportunity to interview with all of my top 3 choice schools. I was able to meet the people who were going to be reading my application, and I was able to hear from them what they were looking for. So I remember Columbia's admissions officer was like, we're looking for go-getters. I was like, that's what I'm going to put on my application, that I'm a go-getter. And obviously not catering. I didn't use those words, pandering. But it helped, and it was such a different process. And again, grateful, but a little bit angry that I had to leave so far from home to get access to this, and really sad for my classmates who weren't back home. So we decided to bring that practical knowledge down into Brownsville through what we do at RioProgress, where I talk to students about the importance of their essays, the lack of importance of their test scores that so many of them are focused on. Not to say they're not important, but
not we stress too much. They stress too much about it.
Yeah.
And there are so many other more important things to worry about.
And so we hope that people get from this, right, the knowledge that a lot of the application process, a lot of getting into college is luck, combined with proper preparation, but also the practical knowledge of like, how do you fill out your applications? When are the deadlines? What are the scholarships you should apply to? How much do your test score matter? And how can you position yourself in the best way possible to be a really qualified candidate? And then how do you navigate the process afterwards too? Because I know that's something that we've talked about with our students, of a lot of even the schools that do a good job at getting students into college. Stop there. But after you get in, there's conversations about financial aid. There's conversations about what is the best choice school. We have a lot of people who come to us, well, how do we decide between this school and this school? And it's
the weather. It's the weather.
Ultimately, for most people, yes.
It's the weather.
And the school colors, if you're me.
Okay,
But there's actually a lot that goes into that. And we talk about it. And so we want to talk about the practicalities of this process as well. And then I think lastly, we want people to feel like there's hope and they have what it takes to not just help themselves, but help others eventually. I remember you telling me when we first started RioProgress that in your community, every adult knew about this process. Right? Every adult knew about college. And that you or your classmates could even ask the mailman. And the mailman would know. And that stuck with me because I was like, could I ask my mail person, right, for advice on when to apply to college? And I don't think that I necessarily could, right, for many reasons. But what we hope RioProgress turns into is not just this college advising program, not just the career services, but also a place that teaches the community about all of these things so that any kid in the community, any student can go up to any adult.
Go to their mailman. Hey, sir.
Do you know what the FAFSA deadline is? And they would be able to tell them, right? That's the goal. The goal is so that, you know, I'm not a college for all person. I don't necessarily believe that's the right path for everyone. But I want college for all who want it, right? And I want that opportunity to be available to everyone. And a lot of that starts with like, hey, we need to build up our community knowledge around this area because not everyone's going to have access to us, although they might now that we have this platform.
Let's hope. If they listen, they still have to listen.
But, you know, I want them to be able to go up to, you know, their coworkers at their job or their parents or their pastor or whoever it is that they're going to for advice. And for those people to have the knowledge to also be able to guide them, at least to start. And so there's, you know, a lot we want to do and we're excited to get this started.
And I think the other component that we also feel like, or that I feel like we're doing is we are helping some of the things I think that you mentioned a lot when we were in college. It was this idea of why do our best leave? I remember that conversation.
Because I was convinced that we had an issue of brain drain in our community. And brain drain is when you have really smart people, but all the smart people leave and then they don't come back. And I still think that we have some of that going on in the Valley. I think it's changing. There's a really amazing scholarship at UTRGV that's working to fight that, the Luminary scholarship. But I think ultimately it's going to be a matter of people understanding their community enough to not resent it. I don't think I started processing just how amazing and incredible our community was until I had to explain it to others when I was at Exeter and in New York, right? And I had to explain, we're on the border, but and explaining a lot of that to others made me realize, like, we have a lot to offer. You talk about the grind mentality. We're hustlers, right? People start incredible businesses here. People do so much with so little. What if we had the resources? Right? What if we didn't have to do with less? And when I came back to teach, my students would ask, you know, why are you here? You could go anywhere, right? You have these degrees from these fancy schools. Why come back? Yeah. And I remember thinking, why do you think you deserve bad teachers? Why don't you think you deserve the best?
Yeah.
And usually that would get them to be quiet, right? Because like, how do you answer that?
Yeah.
But that also became part of our model and part of what we care about, right? It's not just sending these kids out and then being like, yes, go be an amazing engineer. I want you back here doing amazing engineering things in our community.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that all of us move forward, right? That's where real progress comes from. It's this idea that we want real progress for our community, by our community. And I think that can only come from people who live it, understand it, know it, people who adopt us or who are adopted by us. But you have to really believe that, you know, this place deserves qualified people, that this place deserves that level of investment into the community. And that's part of what we try to impart on our students before they leave. Like, we're sending you, but we would like for you to come back and give back in many capacities, right?
Yeah, and we are sending you to the best university options you can get. And we are sending you without an ounce of debt. Like, we are really like we are truly trying to give you the opportunity, because I understand that there's the excuse where it's like, oh, well, I went to a great school, but
I need to make money.
I need to make money now, and I'm worried about that, right? And there are so much opportunity that still exists here, right? Everyone believes that they are forced to make money in a big city, and they don't make their way back, right? They get caught up in that system.
Yeah, I used to tell my parents, the closest you're gonna get me is Austin.
Yeah, right. And I think that is a core component of RP that I absolutely love, and that is gonna help.
And that we're getting to see in action.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We already have a couple of students who have come back and are doing internships here. Yeah. They're working with nonprofits, or they're helping students learn about what they've learned. Yeah. And I think of all the things that have made me proud of the work we do, I think that's one of the most important ones. Students saying, you know, I'm thinking about my next steps, and I want to know how I can give back. Yeah. I want to know how I can come back and do the work I want to do here. What are the opportunities, right? What should I be doing to set myself up for that? You know, I'm a crier, so that always gets me. I'm like, oh my gosh, get it out. Like, I want nothing more than for all of our students to go see the world, experience new things, get knowledge, and come back and implement it here. But I do want them to have those opportunities to go and see, right? And to go and learn from other people and do cool things and then bring it back.
That's awesome. So what are some of the things that people can expect from this podcast? Well,
we're going to have some really fun conversations with students that we've had, or students that we've worked with in some capacity. We're going to have conversations with local business owners that we find really have interesting paths. We're going to talk about college. We're going to talk about how to afford it, how to finance it. And we're going to talk about what parents can do to help their students every step of the way, right? I know I was just talking to someone who's like, what can my 3-year-old do? It's like, believe it or not, there are things that you can start doing at 3 years old, right? That would really drastically help.
The kid needs to get hooked on phonics.
Basically. They need to be reading 1,000 books before kindergarten.
Oh, man.
I'm half kidding, but we can talk about that when we talk about reading. But it's going to be a space that is about what we know and about what we do, but also about what people want to know, right? What their questions are, what their doubts, their fears, their hopes, so that we can really keep growing our work with capacity that we might not have when we're just one-on-one or doing workshops, right? We're hoping that this, that people will learn something from it and that they'll share it with someone else as well.
Yeah. And also, it's digestible, it's shareable. Like, we anticipate
eventually bilingual, we hope.
Like, we would want people to share this, because the whole point of what we'd hope to accomplish with RioProgress is that our community has that built up wealth of knowledge, and I think we talk about it as the community chest or community. I am not the education expert here, so I have none of the
experts call it cultural capital.
There it is. Cool.
But we joke that it's like the Monopoly community chest,
Exactly.
right? Where it's just all these like cards with hopefully opportunities in there for others.
Yeah, and that will be able to help solve some of the things that I think people are interested in. One of the things I know people are interested in hearing is going to be about our school systems. There are certain hot takes that exist. There are.
Let me drink before.
There will be plenty of hot takes in regards to our school systems, criticisms, but also improvements, things that we hope that the community is more aware of, so that they can be able to advocate for their kids. We're going to talk about that. One of the last things I'd like to ask is what do we value? You and I, yeah.
So we have 3 family mottos.
Yes.
One is commit to the bit, because you were in improv.
I live improv.
And I got to go to many an improv shows.
Okay. I wasn't just in improv. I am a collegiate improv champion. Exactly.
And so a lot of what we learned at improv is comedy, right? Yeah. And a lot of what we learned is it does not matter what you want to do as long as you commit fully into it, right? Even if you think it's ridiculous, even if it sounds outrageous to others. I got to see some performances where someone pretended to be like a cockroach laying on the ground, right? And it didn't matter that it was a ridiculous scenario. You committed to it. And if you committed enough, then you saw success, right? You became national collegiate champions in Chicago of the improv. So we believe in committing to whatever you want to do, no matter how ridiculous it sounds.
The next one I would say I learned from you, which is hope is not a strategy. Repeated multiple times when we were going through the process with my siblings, because I think for my siblings it was hard for them because I think they saw me go through the college process, stumble and fall. They saw their sister go through the college process and really, really struggle. They hadn't seen her out the other side yet.
Yeah, she was still in college.
Yeah. And for them, they were going through the process and being like, well, I just hope this is going to work, and I'm just going to hope. But the way that we think about hope is not a strategy is, hope comes from having prepared, putting into motion the important things. So people should expect that from us and hear that from the podcast. And when we talk about things, we're going to talk about it from the perspective of the things that we are asking people to do are going to help them gain hope and confidence in the process, just like how we are helping those students. And it's sort of how your college counselor went about it doing it, right? She gave you all the bits of information you needed to know and the ways to execute on that. So hope is not a strategy.
Yeah. And I think, one of my favorite authors says hope is the correct response.
Yes.
So I don't want people to think that we're saying don't have hope.
Yeah.
But it's hope is the correct response, and then you do something about it, right? Then you have to put it into action.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where our third one comes in, which is from your Russian math calculus teacher.
Yes.
When you do decide you're going to do something and you decide to commit to it and you want to create a strategy, first you cry. And then you solve the problem.
Because it applies to math and to life. Yes, it does.
Sometimes you're going to be like, this is really daunting. This is a lot. I don't even know where to start. And I think some people are like, I just have to do it. And they skip the crying part.
Yeah.
But if they don't cry, then they're stuck in that anxious mode the whole time. So we tell our students, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have the breakdowns.
You got to let the emotions out. And then that provides you the clear mind to go ahead and go into
to the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to solve the problem. And so I think those are the values that RioProgress has.
Yeah.
It's the values that we have.
Yeah.
And it's the values that we try to share with our students and that we think would be helpful for anyone going into a new adventure, whether it's college, a new career, or even starting a new podcast, right?
And to be clear, my Russian math teacher did not make us cry. The calculus problems made us cry. But then after we cried, then we figured out what the solutions were.
And then we solved the problem.
Exactly.
So I think that's what we're hoping to do here. And we hope that it resonates with people. And we hope that they're excited to listen and excited to maybe share this with others too.
So we also were talking about how RP started, and I think there's a lot of thought that we've put into things. I think it's really cool that we're here with a set. We have our logo. I have one question, and it's funny because, again, Like, we spend so much time with each other. I shouldn't have this question. But why blue?
Because it's my favorite color. But it actually became my favorite color because, so I lived, when I was in like first or second grade, I went to Rosa del Castillo Elementary, and I had a friend who was in like third grade, and I think I was kinder first, right? I was really young. And her name was Betsabeth. And she told me pink was for weak girls.
Ooh.
Which, you know, now feminism and all these things, you know, you can like whatever color you like. But I became a blue girl in that moment, right? Oof. I was like, I'm not going to be one of those girls who likes pink. I like blue.
We just lost the entire pink girl audience.
I like them just fine.
Yeah.
But the thing we talk about, committing to the bit, like, I think I've lived that my whole life, because as soon as I decided that I liked blue, it was over from there. My quinceañera dress was blue. My, room was blue. Everything was blue.
Yep.
And so I really liked the color.
Yeah.
I joked earlier that when you're making college decisions, right, you end up picking based on the school colors.
Yep.
So something that I don't think even our students know, I was deciding between Georgetown, Columbia, and Princeton at the end. And Columbia has this beautiful baby blue Pantone 292, you know, and they promote it very widely. Georgetown was like a navy blue. I was like, I could still get down with that. That could still work.
Yeah.
Princeton had orange.
Okay,
Princeton was eliminated right away.
It's Jersey. Hey.
I was like, I'm not going to look good in that. It's orange and black. I'm not doing it. So blue has always been one of my favorite colors. And when we were thinking about what do we want for RioProgress, we were thinking about, like, we're going to have to wear these colors a lot. We're going to have to own a lot of merch in these colors.
Yeah.
But also we were thinking about, like, what looks good on the computer, what looks good in print. And we were looking at what colors do schools not already have in the area. I was a proud Falcon. We weren't going to use maroon because that's taken.
Yeah.
So we looked at the colors that would make sense for that. And then I know we also looked at colors that meant knowledge or royalty or something really excellent.
Yes.
And so we ended up combining it with the purple because that worked really well. But blue because I like it, and because it's cool, and because it works.
Okay. That's cool, because I didn't know that was the story.
The origin story.
The origin story of blue. I just always knew blue was the way to go, and if it was going to be a gift or your engagement ring, it was going to be blue. I didn't know why or how. I just knew that was it.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
It was also it for RioProgress.
That's awesome. And then when we think about the slogan, right? Find your path and run with it. Do you remember that conversation that we had when we were trying to figure it out? Like,
yeah, we went through a few iterations, and our best conversations happen while we're driving, usually on long road trips. And we had a few options because I love quotes. Yes. I have a list of inspiring quotes at all times ready to hand off to students. So the other one we thought about was lift as you climb. And I think that's still the one that drives me primarily, of wanting to make sure that students understand that if they're going to make it to the top, they need to bring others with them. And they need to do that as they're going, because if you wait until you're at the top to try to reach back for someone else, the way that the quote works is you're too far removed from everyone else to where you can't reach them anymore. So you have to do this. Every step you take forward, you bring someone up. The other component to that is you don't want to be lonely, right? If you get to the top, but you're by yourself, things are actually way harder, and they feel like they're not worth it. So we really thought about lift as you climb as our tagline. But I didn't want to plagiarize Mary Church Terrell. And obviously, we'd have to give her credit at every instance, and it just felt like, we probably should come up with our own. And then we also realized that a lot of the conversations we were having with students weren't even thinking about success yet. We were not even thinking about what are we going to do when we, achieve great things. It was, I don't know what to do. I know that I want to do big things. I know that I want to get far, but I don't know how to get there, and I don't know what path I want to take to get there. And so that's how Find Your Path, right? We help students figure out not just what they're good at, but what they like, what they want to do, right? I think of my brother often, who is a great accountant, but he hates it. Like, that's not what we want for our students.
Yeah.
And so we do a lot of work, and you do a lot of work around helping students figure out their path. And then the run with it part is that once you know what you're going to do, you need to get going, right? You need to start and you need to move towards it. And sometimes you got to do it pretty quickly, because some students have found their path, when they were 5 and have been running towards it this whole time. So you might have to catch up a little bit. So find your path and run with it is, let's sit down, let's do a hard work of thinking and realizing who we are, but then let's also put in a lot of work to help us get there. And it's our slogan because we help you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, when it comes to what we hope that people seeing this for the first time are hearing and feeling, what is the thing that they can expect from us as we continue to talk about college, as we continue to talk about careers? Like, what is going to be the thing that they know at the end of every podcast episode? Hey, this is what I'm going to be learning today.
I think they can expect to leave with hope for, we can do good things and there's going to be good things to come. They can leave with some practical skill or knowledge. I think we're going to try to share something that students and parents can do every episode, and something that they can share with others, right? So I think those 3 things are things that can always be expected from us, from our work, and from this podcast as an extension of it.
Perfect. So that sounds exactly like what I was going to go ahead and say. If you are listening right now, you can expect, 1, to share this podcast. You definitely should. You can expect that and hope that we will come out with another episode. We will. We have an amazing team to help us put this together. And the thing that you're going to leave with is going to be our website, a little bit about us, RioProgress.org. And of course, as we continue to post more and more of these podcasts, you'll be able to see us more on other different platforms. So just keep an eye out. Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you'll come back for another episode. Thank you all so much for watching this podcast and following along with us. If you really liked it, please feel free to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere that you might be listening to this. And if you want more information about the work that we do, you can go to RioProgress.org, or you can follow us on socials at RioProgress.